Hi, good morning. Okay, we had a little bit of a blip with the recording initially, but I think that we're good to go now. Good morning. Thanks for joining. We're going to move through a 60-minute Vinyasa style practice this morning. If you do have some tools in your space, that would be great. It's a little bit chilly here where I am this morning, so I'm bundled up. If you find that to be the case where you are, feel free to grab some socks and maybe a blanket, warm top for the end of practice for Shavasana. You're definitely going to want a strap, or you can replace the strap with a pillowcase or even a sheet or a shirt, something that can be long and stretched out. And blocks are great if you got them. Otherwise, stacks of books will work. And I've got a bolster and a meditation cushion here, but pillows, regular everyday pillows from home, from your couch, from your bed will work just as well. Of course, your mat if you've got it. Otherwise, right on the bare floor, carpet works too. So if you've got all your supplies ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. So you can make your way to your mat and get nice and comfortable. And this morning, we'll actually start lying down in Shavasana. So you can come to lie onto your back. I'll come up in a seat in a moment because I want to give you some useful information as we set intention, but you can rest lying here. If this is not comfortable for your low back, you're also welcome to prop up the knees with some blocks or a pillow, whatever works best for you. We'll be here for just a few moments as we start the practice. Go ahead and settle in. Hmm. So this morning, I want to work through our movement practice in to integrate one of my favorite lessons and passages from the Bhagavad Gita. And as you rest here and simply settle into your breath and into your body and allow yourself the time and space to land, you can also notice how these words land with you and how you might take them with you into your practice, both here on the mat this morning as well as out and into your day, hopefully, ideally. So the Bhagavad Gita was summarized in a way by Dinabandhu Sarli, who said, yoga is the practice of tolerating the consequences of being yourself. So this could be a hard pill to swallow when the consequences of being ourself are not so desirable. Much easier to take those words and run with them when we're feeling like, yeah, I'm really, I'm in it. I'm doing this thing. I'm hitting all the marks. Um, but the Bhagavad Gita really said that, another one of the things that folks love from this text is that yoga is the journey of the self through the self to the self. So this is what we're talking about here. It's we're in this journey, we're making our choices, and every day is a practice of yoga in motion, in real time, of taking an action, consequence of the action, living with it, adjusting in the way that you need, making your next choice, next action, next consequence. And this is the practice. And so as we move through our asana today, I encourage you, I invite you to notice um, what are the consequences of being yourself? If you choose to place your foot or your leg just so, what is that sensation in your system? Does that really work for you? And if it creates a consequence that's a little unsavory, maybe you can make a shift so that something more fruitful, something more positive might come out of the practice for you this morning. So allowing that to settle into your bones for a few more breaths as you rest in Shavasana. And then in your next breath or two, you can draw your knees up and into your heart. And we'll start with just a little bit of circular movement for the low back. And sometimes as I'm doing this, just to kind of wake up out of that rest, I also like to roll my ankles. You can roll in both directions if that feels good for you. And also bring a little bit of movement into the hips. So it could be something circular or a little more abstract, just bringing gentle movement to ankles, hips, low back as we start to get warm. And then take a roll towards your right side. But before you do that, you can take your right arm up and overhead and then roll towards your right side like you want to lay onto your upper arm, or you might even do that for a moment. Your left arm will come around your low back. And I'm going to sit up in a moment to show this, but you can walk your fingertips toward the space between your shoulder blades. We're heading toward Gomukhasana in the upper body, um, which looks something like this. So left arm reaches, it could stay here. It could walk up toward the space between your shoulder blades. And right arm eventually will reach down as if you want to clasp, but that doesn't have to happen, right? It could be here. So lying on your right side, your left arm comes to low back or walks between the shoulder blades, and then roll back down onto the earth. So your right hand can come in toward the nape of your neck. You might make contact between your fingertips, and you might leave your knees bent and rest just like this, especially if the shoulder's like, wow, this is really intense moving this way. I'm feeling the consequence of being myself right now, right? If it feels okay in your form, you might extend your legs all the way out. And we're going to take a few breaths here. If it feels appropriate to start incorporating ujjayi or inhales and exhales through the nose, you can check that out. And then go ahead. If your legs are extended, walk back up onto the soles of your feet. You can roll toward your right side gently to release your left arm. Move slowly, especially if that felt like a lot for your shoulder, to release your left arm, left shoulder, and then come on back down to the earth. We're going to take that to the second side. So you roll to your left side, but first left arm extends. So you can kind of roll onto your upper arm like a pillow. And right arm, you'll be able to see a little better on this side, comes toward low back, or perhaps reaches upward toward the spot between your shoulder blades. Once you've gone as far as you'd like, you can come back toward the earth. And as you're wiggling your way back to the earth, your left hand will come to land at the nape of your neck. So we're in this Gomukhasana type shape in the upper body. You might want to leave your knees bent and rest into the soles of your feet. You might want to lengthen out your legs and rest all the way down to the earth. And you are constantly in this cycle of living the consequences of your choices, even in this little stage of the yoga mat. So if something feels like too much or not enough, you have the power to adjust, make a different decision. Take another breath or two. And then if your legs are extended, go ahead and walk up onto the soles of your feet. Take a gentle roll towards your left so that you can untangle your right arm from underneath you and roll on back towards center. And you can bring your knees back into your chest towards your heart. And again, maybe it's a little bit of movement on your low back, maybe ankles, maybe knees. Mm. And then settle your left foot down onto the earth. Bring your right ankle atop your left thigh. So you can have as much space here as an empty triangle as you would like for a supine pigeon. And if this feels like a lot of sensation or enough sensation, you can stay right where you're at. If you want to build something else on, you might hug your left thigh in. You can interlace behind your hamstrings or at your shin. Some folks like to extend their leg long and work too. Take a few breaths. And then exhale if your leg is extended. Lower your left foot all the way to the earth. Now you are going to choose your own adventure, find the path that's going to work best for you. You might bring your right foot all the way toward the inside of your left hip pocket. That is an option, right? It's not the option, it's an option. Looking for this banyan tree style of setup, and maybe your left leg extends. So now we're in a reclined tree type pose. If this feels like, yeah, my hip's not having that, I don't like that consequence, you can keep the angle a little bit wider. So more like a figure four and lower down, or you can bring your right foot to the inside of your left thigh. So more like a traditional Vrikshasana for the low body, though we're reclined. You can also at any point tuck in books or blocks or blanket underneath your right outer knee. Take a breath with this, in whichever tree configuration you have found for your lower body. And then if you have your right foot to inner thigh, you can land it back atop your left thigh now at a wide or narrow angle. Slide back up to the sole of your left foot, and with your hands, help untangle there. Land back into the sole of your right foot. Bring your left ankle atop your right thigh. So remember, you can choose sensation, right? You can choose how wide or narrow the angle is. You can stay right here or hug in at your hamstrings or shin. If you're looking for a different edge, perhaps it's an extension with your right leg this morning. Take a breath. And then all variations, go ahead and lower your right foot down. Lower your right foot down, and perhaps your left ankle comes in to hook in toward right upper thigh, like this banyan or kind of like a half lotus style of configuration for the lower body, perhaps. And then the right leg can extend and you can lower your left knee down. If that's not working for your hip, remember the angle can be wider and it's still a banyan-like configuration, or left foot can come to the inside of your right thigh, more like a traditional tree form, tree shape. So find the one that's going to work best for you and take a whole breath in and a whole breath out. And then guide your left foot or ankle atop your right thigh. If it's not already there, remember the angle can be wide. Slide up onto your right foot. Help guide your left foot back on down to the earth. And then bring both feet together in the center and let your knees fall out wide. This could be, I'm going to adjust just a little. I've got this jungle plant right here, so I can't land my knee down. There we go. So you might want to land blocks or books underneath the outer edge of either knee. Maybe it feels okay in your body to just kind of go splat right down to the earth and sink into what works best for you. See if you can drag your ribs back. Notice if there's a big flare of your ribs. Can you get a little bit more of your back making contact with the earth? And take a whole breath. And then go ahead and invite your left knee all the way over to meet your right knee. You can bring your arms out wide like a T from your shoulders, or like cactus arms with elbows bent. Your gaze can stay straight to the sky or out and over your left fingertips or shoulder. Just bringing in a breath for reclined twist. And one more breath. And then go ahead and lift everything up through center. You can resettle or readjust your hips as needed. And now let both knees fall down toward your left. And your gaze can stay upward or out over your right fingertips. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and guide both knees all the way back to center. And then go ahead and find that strap, t-shirt, pillowcase, whatever you've got around you that's going to help you kind of just extend your reach a little bit here. And landing with both feet on the earth, bring your right foot back to the top of your left thigh. So same options. It can be a wider angle. You can tuck right to the inside of your hip pocket if you'd like. Once you've settled in a place that feels sustainable for you today, you can hover your left foot and loop your strap just under your toes. So you can give a lot of slack. You can be out here with it, right? You can pick up the slack and pull the knee and ankle a little bit higher. So it's more like stacking over your hips, something like that. And you can stay right here, or for those that want to move with me, perhaps walk up the length of your strap, maybe even making contact with your foot if that's in the practice today. You'll likely feel some sensation going on in outer right hip. That's okay. That's what we're looking for. Three, two, one. Soften out of that. Release head, neck, and shoulders to the earth. You can unloop your strap, bend back into your left knee, land your foot back to the earth. Invite right foot to the earth. You know we're going to the other side for that. So adjust left ankle to top right thigh this time. Wide angle or more narrow, perhaps it's pulled right into the hip once you have found the one that works for you, particularly those common pain points, right? So, like knee, ankle, hip, listen into those, find what feels sustainable in your form, and then hover your right foot, loop your strap just under your toes. You can have a lot of slack. It could be here, a little lower. If there's a lot of sensation going on, you've got it. Doesn't matter how high your foot is. Perhaps you're taking up the slack and it's more like a stack above your hip. Perhaps you're walking up the strap, maybe even toward the toes or your foot, and you're hovering so head, neck, and shoulders come up and off the earth. Hold there. Remember to breathe. Three and two and one. You can unloop your strap, bend into your right knee, lower your right foot to the earth. Untangle so left foot comes back to the earth too. Here's where you can perhaps roll up and down the length of your spine to come up toward a seat, or you can roll down toward one side and press yourself up toward a seat. We're going to meet there just briefly. Finally warming up in here, so I'm going to take my woolly socks off. I can stick a little bit more to the mat as we begin to move. So just for a moment, come on up toward a seat. Bring your hands to your kneecaps and take a few full circles all the way around in one direction. Just getting into all edges of the ribs, all movements of the spine. You might allow your head, neck, and shoulders to follow as well. You can reverse that if you haven't already. As you're leaning forward, really draw your shoulders back. And as you're coming back, you can round your shoulders and round your back, a little bit more flexion. And then go ahead and slide back towards center. Perhaps you want to roll up and over knees and ankles towards child's pose. If that's not happening for you today, sweep your feet around behind you. We'll meet in child's. Balasana. So maybe that's with toes touching, knees can be together or a little bit wide. You choose your best variation. Rest forehead down. You're welcome to tuck a block or blanket or pillow underneath your sits bones. And then walk both of your hands out and off the right edge of your mat. Drop your head down between upper arms and shift your weight over towards your left hip. So as you begin to breathe, you'll notice a lot of sensation up the left side body, up the left ribs. This is some lateral flexion to start our practice this morning. And then go ahead and walk it all the way back through center. This time, both hands are going out and off the left side of your mat. So you'll drop your head down between upper arms and your upper body takes a little shift towards your right hip. It's the same action as you do that. Ideally, noticing this space being created up the right side ribs. Ideally, noticing these big broadening breaths right into the right lung. Right? Take another breath or two there. And then go ahead and walk it all the way back towards center. And you can slide your fingertips all the way on up towards your knees. Come to a nice tall seat. Slide your sits bones down to one side and lengthen both legs out toward the front. Strap again is going to come in handy. And if you've got a block or some books handy, that would be great as well. You can take one to the lowest setting at the front edge of your mat. Leave your left leg nice and long for now and bend into your left knee to bring the sole of your foot to the inside of your right thigh. Or if you would like, we're going to see this shape a lot today. You can come into that kind of half Ardha Padma, the half lotus, and perhaps bring your left foot to your inner right thigh. That is an option, right? We will fold forward as in Janu Shirshasana, right? You may want to explore this with your foot up on a block or some books. I promise there's a method to my madness. You'll see where we are going next. So with your strap handy, extend forward, Janu Shirshasana, and then invite your left arm around your back. So for those that have your foot in the right hip pocket, this could be an opportunity to find the big toe. You might be like, whoa, 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 it's early in the practice. So no bind is required, right? That's just a possibility. If you want to play with the bind, but the foot is not in the hip pocket, you can loop your strap around, and that can be to the inner thigh, and you can find it here, right? Onto the strap. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and hover all the way back to center. Unloop your strap, lower your right leg down. You can swap your block over to the left side, hug your left knee in and extend. So if you liked that variation, this typically increases the sensation, particularly for hamstrings. If you liked that variation on the first side, go ahead and grab your block or your books. This can also be done with your heel right to the ground. And then remember, right foot this time tucks into inner thigh or right into the hip pocket. So if you liked working with the strap, remember you're going to loop around your right foot regardless of the variation. Okay. And the strap, both tails of the strap are going to go across your left thigh. So if you're here or with it in your pocket, and then start to hinge forward as in Janu Shirshasana. But right arm this time comes around your back, and you might find the tails of your strap to hold. Those that have your foot tucked into your pocket, you might find your big toe as you fold. Notice the consequences of each choice, right? You're constantly in a place of adjustment, right? Decision, consequence, adjustment, readjustment. Take another breath. And then go ahead and slowly lift your way back up to a nice tall seat. If you're with your strap, you can untangle it. Help land your right leg back down. Take your left leg back down. You can set your block off to the side for now, and we'll move into some variations of Navasana. So I'm going to slide my hips forward a little so I don't whack into anything behind me. And you can begin by coming up onto your tippy toes and supporting underneath your hamstrings. Make sure you're pulling really nice and tall in your torso and the length of your spine. Navasana today could look like this because we'll kind of alternate or oscillate between a Navasana and Ardha Navasana, a boat and half boat. If this is not working for your back, which is the case for lots of bodies, you can try a variation that looks like this. Lean back just a little, enough that you feel the core muscles kicking in like, oh, okay, now I'm working to stabilize here, right? And you can hover one toe or one foot rather, I should say, and the other foot, right? If you're feeling the belly firing up, you are accomplishing our intention, our goal here, right? So you can alternate like this. If you're feeling like it works for you this morning to hover all toes and both feet, this will be our variation of Navasana this morning. Navasana, and with our half Navasana, Ardha Navasana, will extend. Legs extend and arms extend as you lower without landing shoulders to the earth. And then Navasana. Okay, so it's here and then here. We'll take a few breaths. So you're alternating between these two, or you're hanging out here, perhaps with support on your hamstrings, and you're tapping down one foot and then the other. So regardless of variation, we're going to give it a whirl for another 3, 2, and 1. All variations. Hug your knees in. You can round your back, lower your head, take a breath. And then go ahead, either crisscross to roll up and over knees and ankles, or sweep your feet around behind you. We're coming on up to stack knees beneath the hips. Settle in on fists if you'd like for some support for your wrists, or right on down to your palms. Let your navel drop toward the earth and expand your heart forward. And then exhale to round your back, press the earth away. So we're adding a little intensity to the flexion of the spine, getting really rounded. Drop your navel as you inhale, and then exhale, pressing the earth away. So if you'd like, you might take this movement for a last few breaths into something more like barrel shaped or circular. Again, just getting into all edges of the ribs and all the movements of the spine. Reverse the direction if you haven't already. So yoga is really a practice of encouraging us to explore the full potential of the self. And if we're gonna, accept ourselves at our best with the best consequences, we've also got to accept ourselves and take responsibility when we're suffering through the not so fun, the not so tasty consequences. And this is the practice, and this is the lesson from the Bhagavad Gita. I love it. Not so easy to swallow when we're in the thick of it, when we're in the weeds, right? In your next breath, come on back toward table. Tuck your toes under and take a lift back. It doesn't have to be fast, right into your first down dog of the day. So your first one might mean a little bit of movement, bend one knee and the other. It means some head shakes, yes and no nods. And then walk your feet all the way up to the tippy top of your mat. Let your feet come out nice and wide, about hips width distance. And you can bind opposite elbows and either hang out here in stillness. You're welcome to rest elbows onto blocks if you'd like, or it's a little pendulum sway. A little pendulum sway. And then go ahead and release your fingertips toward the earth or towards your shins. We're going to take a rounded back as we lift upward towards standing, all the way on up, all the way on up. And you can shimmy on up to the top edge of your mat and rest your hands together to heart center, samastitihi. This is always our check-in spot for sankalpa, for our intention, right? So every time you come here, you might land to Anjali. If you prefer, you can bring a hand to your heart or a hand to your belly, or simply rest in Tadasana. This is your spot to remember the why of your practice. So if the intention from Bhagavad Gita is landing with you today, again, perhaps just letting that settle in, contemplating how this practice offers us the opportunity, the gift of living the consequences of being ourself, truly, authentically, unapologetically ourself, and what that means in all of its flavors. With your next inhale, you can take your arms out wide and upward. Bring your gaze to follow toward your fingertips. And then on your exhale, bring it all the way on down. You can find your blocks or weight to the earth, Uttanasana. As you lift up, it's halfway. So again, to your blocks or to your shins, Ardha Uttanasana. Settle your hands into the earth and take a step back for your plank. On our first round of vinyasa, let's all land down knees and then chest and then chin. So it's sits bones hovering. Slide your heart through, roll your upper arm bones back for a baby cobra, a little lift of your heart. Exhale, your forehead back to the earth. And then as you inhale, lift up through table. We're coming on back to downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths there. 3 breaths. Okay. So with your inhale, for those that like the leg lift, it's right. We're going to start with the right side. So perhaps you want to float your right toes upward and then settle your gaze forward, settle your right foot down. Help it if you'd like. We'll stay on the tippy toes of the left foot at the back. Work your right knee in and above your right ankle and inhale all fingertips high. It's Ashta Chandrasana, crescent warrior. And we'll take this with some movement this morning in a yeah, a little bit of a kriya, a little bit of a sequence that moves with the breath. So it's crescent, bend into your back knee, draw your elbows toward your ribs. And then as you inhale, it's a hover forward. Take your left ankle atop your right thigh. So again, this shape we've seen all through the practice. And then it's a sink back toward Utkatasana with this figure 4 type shape. Breathe your hands together toward your heart. Take a lift. Untangle lower body. It's a pass through Vira 3. And then bend into your base legs. Settle back to the tips of your toes. We're right back where we started at Crescent Warrior. Okay, let's try that one out. Another 2 times. It's a bend into the knee, gathering some momentum. Lift. Left ankle comes atop your right thigh. Then it's a deep seat back as an Utkatasana variation. Lengthen the torso, hands to your heart. Release your left leg and hover back, Vira 3. Steadiness here, then a little bitty bend into your right knee, right back to crescent. One more round on this side. See if you can link up your breath with the movement so it becomes a very coordinated, synchronized dance. Good. Lengthen both arms. And then breathe all the way on down. Frame your front foot. Step it on back. If you're building chaturanga into your practice, perhaps you want to build it in here. If you want to do another round with knees landing, you can do chaturanga prep, right? And then come to high cobra. Those working through chaturanga to up dog, you might come right there. And then everyone tuck your toes under, head all the way back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Take a breath. It's here or child's pose anytime we land here, right? Both options. And then inhale your left leg high. Perhaps if you like that leg lift before you step through, left foot leads this time. Second side is always more familiar with the sequence. So here we go. Stay on the tippy toes of your right foot, then reach all 10 fingertips high. Remember, we'll go a little slower on the first round. It's a drag of your elbows towards your ribs. And then as you lift, hover your right foot, settle your right ankle atop left thigh, and it's a sit back, Utkatasana variation. And then lengthen hands to your heart, hover your right foot, and hinge forward, passing through Vira 3, Warrior 3. Bend into your left knee, step it on back, right back to where we started, Vira 1, your Crescent Warrior. Okay, round 2. Let me see. Just this. Hello. Okay. Bend into your knee, elbows towards your ribs. Hover your right foot forward. Then it's a draw down to your upper thigh, hinge toward Utkatasana variation. Breathe to lengthen. Draw your hands to your heart. Release right back where we started. We've got one more round on this side. Sylvia, I think you might be unmuted. Just checking in if you can,
I
if
am.
you,
I'm so sorry. I'm
that's
trying to
okay.
figure it out.
Okay. All right, last round. Here we go. Draw your elbows towards your ribs, bend deep into your back knee. Go ahead and hover. Then its right ankle comes atop your left thigh. Sink back towards your seat. Press your palms together, lengthen at your torso. Unlace lower legs. This is the last round on this side. Go ahead and step back to your tippy toes and come on up to crescent as we wrap up on that side. Breathe on down to frame your front foot. Step back. So this is where you choose your path. If you're working with chaturanga, perhaps it's there. Maybe you're building in full upward facing dog here. You can roll up and over your toes, come all the way on back toward downward facing dog, and then all variations. Land your knees on down to the earth and press on back toward child's pose. Take another breath. Just adjusting the view here because I can't see my screen anymore. I can only see Sylvia. I'm trying to adjust so I can see, make sure that I'm in screen for all of you. Okay. There we go. Okay. So go ahead and reach your fingertips forward. You can round your back to lift back up through for table. We're meeting together back at downward facing dog. So take your time to get there. A breath or two once you land. Heels don't have to touch, but land them toward the earth. And then lift your gaze forward. If you'd like, you can float your right toes. Otherwise, it's a direct step forward. This time it's a warrior one setup. So left heel lands. There can be some space between your heels. And we're rising up toward Vera one, which means both hips are shifting forward toward the top edge of the mat. And then go ahead and sweep your arms behind you to interlace your fingers. Press your knuckles down toward the earth and let your heart lift. And then it's a little bit of a swivel, drop to the inside of your right knee. Baddha Virabhadrasana, a humble warrior. Remember to draw the heels of your hands toward one another as you drop down. And then all variations, take your right arm, you can wrap around the top of your right thigh. Maybe you want to land to a block, or maybe you want to wrap around the hamstrings. Left arm wraps around your lower back. See if you can find a piece of your shirt or even the top of your right thigh as you're hinging. Practicing again this shoulder action we've worked with quite a bit today. And then go ahead and release that. All variations rise right back on up to Vera 1. Breathe down through heart center. Frame your front foot. Here's where you might like to move through that vinyasa. If you want to build in more chaturangas, you might like to come direct path to downward facing dog. You might like a child's pose between sides. And then those that like, it's a left leg lift. We're coming over to the second side. Left foot forward, right heel edges down into the earth, but both hips are going to orient toward the front edge of your mat. We rise up toward Vera 1, warrior 1. You can take a deep bend into your front knee and then sweep both arms behind you. Interlace your fingers. If you remember which little finger was on top last time, find the opposite one. Then press your knuckles down and find a lift with your heart. And then go ahead and take that little bit of a swivel to drop to the inside of your left knee. Heels of your hands are pressing toward one another, meaning if the hands are really wide, you want to act like you want to like squeeze a stress ball between your palms, right? And dive it forward, humble warrior. And then all variations, release the grasp of your hands. Left arm wraps around underneath your hamstrings or to a block here. Right arm wraps around your low back. Look for a piece of your shirt or the top of your left thigh. But we're still in this humble warrior expression in the upper body. Just adding in this action for your right shoulder. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and release that. And then reaching all the way back upward. Vera 1. Breathe on down. Time to frame your front foot. So option for Vinyasa is here. Option for direct path to down dog is here. Option for child's pose for a breath or two is here. And then all variations, go ahead and walk your way up to the tippy top of your mat. Walk, lunge, or hop. It's going to be a half lift as you rise. And then a fold back in to Uttanasana. Rise on up. You might want to take your wings out wide. Your gaze can follow your fingertips. And then breathe your hands together right into heart center. Samasthitihi. Remember, this is the place where we pause for sankalpa, for intention. So you can hang out here, or remember, hands can rest over your heart or to your belly. Take a breath. Remembering this interpretation from the Bhagavad Gita that yoga, the practice of yoga, is the consequence of being yourself, is living with the consequence of being yourself. Or in other words, that yoga is the practice of moving to yourself through yourself. And what does that mean? How does it show up even as we're moving through asana, as we're moving through physical shapes? You can release your arms down alongside you. And you're going to need your strap again, or remember, a pillowcase or a necktie, anything like that works very well. So find that. And I'm going to double mine up. I have a really, really super duper long strap. So I'm going to double mine up today. Loop it first. And you want to take it probably slightly wider or quite a bit wider than your shoulders width distance. Okay. Your feet can land in underneath your hips. Start to reach your strap up and overhead. And we'll draw, I know it gets cut off a little bit there, but we'll start to draw the arms down the back. And what you're looking for is that sticky spot where your shoulders are like, ooh, now I'm feeling the consequence of this action, right? And then you're going to pause there. 2, 1, and then go ahead and go all the way over that little sticky spot so that your arms come behind your back. Inhale, your arms are wide once again. This time they're going up and overhead and all the way back to the front. Okay. So if you didn't feel like you found much of a sticky spot, what you can do is bring your hands closer, right? The wider the hands are, the less sticky that spot is going to be. So if you didn't feel that much, just bring your hands a little bit closer together. We're going to take another round. Lifting your arms up and toward the back. Find the spot where it's like, yep, I understand the intention of this posture, this shape, and then hold. Stay right there. 2, 1, and then go ahead and pass through it. Come all the way to the back. We'll move through that just one more time. So inhale, reach your arms wide, up and overhead, and then all the way down to the front. If you'd like, on this last round, you might bring your hands a little bit closer. right? If you didn't feel much of a sticky spot, or if you simply want to give yourselves a little bit deeper challenge, up and overhead, slide toward the back, pause, 2, 1, and then all the way down your back. Take a breath, and then inhale all the way up and overhead, back toward the front. Set your strap off to the side. We'll need it again just a little bit later. And then settle in to standing. You might like to have your block with you, perhaps. The one variation, we'll move into some Vrikshasana variations before we head to play with our peak today. One option you might like is to bring your right foot up onto your block and settle here. If you're having any balance challenge, or like if you're practicing on a carpet like I am, which tends to make you a little wobbly, that might be a nice option. Otherwise, your right foot can land at your ankle, the calf, or up to the inside of your thigh. If you've enjoyed that banyan variation we've worked with a lot today, it's up to the inside of your opposite hip pocket. So Vrikshasana of your choice. As you feel settled, you can land your eyes into any unmoving point. You might rest your hands together to your heart. You might bring your hands up and overhead. If you want to challenge your balance a little bit, you might even lift your gaze up and overhead towards your fingertips, perhaps. And then go ahead and breathe your hands all the way back to heart center. All variations come toward a figure 4. So it doesn't have to be up into your hip pocket, but maybe you want it there, right? That's an option. So the right ankle is resting atop your left thigh, either in the hip pocket or more like an open figure 4. From tall, from standing, so the chest stays up, take your right arm around your low back as if you want to find the top of your left thigh, or maybe you do. If you're feeling steady, your left fingertips can reach high. And then go ahead and come back towards your heart. You can rest your left hand to your heart, unwind your right hand, help guide your right foot back to the earth. Settle back toward Tadasana. You can also shake out or roll out your base leg. And so we're swapping. The right foot becomes the base this time. Left ankle can come, or left foot rather, can come to the inside of the right ankle. Remember, you've got the block option as well. Can come to the inside of your calf or thigh. If you like the banyan variation right off the bat, feel free to find that. Vrikshasana. And it's a squeeze, even if the angle is wide. Think pressing your left hamstrings in toward your calf and calf in toward your hamstrings. If you're steady, hands can rest to your heart, eyes are on an unmoving point to the earth or out across the horizon. Maybe you reach your fingertips high and your gaze can follow if you'd like a little bit of extra challenge for your proprioception this morning. And then all variations, breathe your hands back toward your heart. We're going to stay balancing on just the right leg, but shift a little bit in our configuration. So it's left ankle atop the right thigh. Remember, the angle can be wide. It could be here or tucked up into the hip pocket, more like that Ardha Padma, that half lotus pose. Left arm wraps around your low back like you're looking for a piece of your thigh or this big toe, the left big toe. So it's a wrap there. And if you're steady, right fingertips reach high. And we're keeping the torso high for this round. 3, 2, and 1. Breathe your right hand to your heart. Untangle your left arm from behind you. You can help guide your left foot on down to the earth. Let's settle back in to Tadasana and take a breath. Okay, so let's grab a couple tools before we start playing with our bound tree, our Baddha Vrikshasana. I'm going to adjust my mat here a little. You might want your blocks in front of you. I'm going to demonstrate this from the side so you can see a little bit better what the actions are that are going on. You might want the tie or pillowcase or shirt that you have or strap if you've got one, yay. And have that handy. Drape it over your shoulder for now. And we're settling back into a really familiar shape. So we'll start at tree. And the right foot will be the base. So that means left foot comes toward the ankle or up toward the thigh. And if steady, if possible, it'd be great if all variations could come to figure four or up to the inside of the hip pocket. So that last variation we played with, if you can get toward one of those, then fab. As we build in an additional step here. Okay, so the strap, once you find your foot atop your right thigh, the strap wants to bind over the top of your foot and come around your low back. So your left hand can bind onto the strap, onto the two tails, and you can pull it really nice and taut there. Make sure you're right, your base leg's really steady. Your hand might come to your heart or toward your hip. We're starting to hinge forward and look for your blocks. All right. You could stay right here with it today. You might work to find your big toe. So perhaps left hand is finding your left big toe behind your back. You might work to deepen into your fold. Perhaps today the arm bind feels like too much of a tangle and that's not happening, but you want to add in the fold, right? You can maintain the lower body, but take both hands down to blocks. Baddha Vrikshasana, a bound tree pose. Take another breath. And then all variations are pressing up. If you're still bound here at the toe, get steady. Perhaps bring your hand to your heart, and then it's a lift all the way up, slow-mo. You can untangle the strap, untangle left leg from your right leg, settle back down to your Tadasana. If you're working with your strap, take it over to your left shoulder. Settle in here for a few breaths. Notice, so there's a whole lot of little tangly components that we've worked with through the whole practice and kind of put them all together, which is also one of the when we talk about the consequences of being ourself, we've done this work, we've built the elements, and now the consequences, maybe today, this kind of complex pose felt like it makes a little more sense. Maybe not, maybe not quite yet, right? But let's try it on the second side. So left foot is the base. Right foot is going to come up. Get yourself steady first, and then land your ankle atop your right thigh. Remember, it can be wide angle or right up to the hip pocket. Once you're steady there, loop your strap just over your toes. And then take the tails of your strap around your low back. It's right hand that will bind the tails of your strap. So right hand as if toward your right foot. When you're steady there, land your left hand to your heart and begin to hinge. Begin to hinge forward until you can find a block. Okay, so you might hang out here. You might walk your hand over once you're steady and perhaps bind onto your big toe. If you want to take this without the shoulder action on the right side, you could release that bind and bring both hands right down to your blocks, perhaps building deeper into your fold versus focusing on this shoulder action, right? You choose for your practice today. We're going to hang out for another breath. And 2. And then everyone slowly work your way all the way back to standing. If you're still bound at the opposite foot, you can release your right hand, release the strap. We're not going to need it again, so you can set it down to the side. Help with your hands to untangle right leg from the left and settle back in toward your Tadasana. Take a moment here to sit with your intention. You might want to press hands together to your heart or over your heart. And then go ahead and inhale, arms out wide and high. Bring your gaze up towards your fingertips. We're moving down through a salutation only to make our way to the earth. So you can go nice and slow. It's Uttanasana, then a lift halfway to shins or to blocks. As you exhale, root your palms, step it on back. Last opportunity for a chaturanga for those that are dying to build that in. Breathe all the way back through downward facing dog. And then land your knees to the earth. Take a few breaths back at Balasana, child's pose. You can rest your forehead down to the earth. And then go ahead and slowly slide up. Draw your fingertips toward your kneecaps to come on up toward a tall seat. If you'd like, you can prop your sits bones up on a block or two here as well. Certainly, if sitting back onto your heels is not comfortable, you're really welcome to slide your feet to the front and crisscross at your ankles instead. So from the seat that's comfortable for you, inhale your fingertips high, and then interlace your palms. Press your palms upward to the sky. Draw your upper arms back. And then exhale, draw your palms forward and round your back. I'll turn to the side so you can see a little bit better the action. And then go ahead and release. Rest your hands alongside your ribs. We'll take that a few more rounds. Arms are wide. Reach your fingertips high. Interlace your fingers if you can remember which side which little finger was on top. Try the opposite side. Invite your upper arms back. And then exhale, round your back, press your palms forward. Release. Good. Two more times, all the way up. Press your palms up, upper arms draw back, and then exhale forward to round. Release. Last round. And release that. And come on back towards center. You can slide, if you have not already found your way there, slide your sits bones down to one side so that your feet can come toward the front. Bring your the soles of your feet together towards center, as in Baddha Konasana. We'll take this as a more yin-like variation today, so without force to the insides of the knees or hips. Allow your back to round and soften forward. Some folks like to come to a block or a stack of blocks here. That's an option. We'll be here for a few breaths. Could look like this. Let it be soft. And then in the next breath, go ahead and lift slowly up towards center. You can help draw your knees up and in towards center. We're heading down toward the earth, but if you've got your blocks or books nearby, make sure they're within reach before you head there. And then go ahead and gently roll all the way down. Keep your knees tucked into your heart. A little bit of rolling on your low back in both directions. And then land the soles of your feet down to the mat. We'll take a Setu Bandhasana, but supported today. If you don't have a block, there's no problem. You can also try this with a pillow. It will just be really soft, like a restorative pose. That's good too. Cover your hips just enough that you can slide your block underneath your low back. Please, for today, keep it to the lowest or the middle setting because we're going to build on a pontoon pose. And we don't want the extension to be too extreme as we're settling in toward the end of our practice. So once you're supported on the block, you can explore extending one leg out long and straight. And if okay, I could build a little bit more on perhaps, then extend both legs out long. If it feels like the one side is really intense, you got a couple two options. You can lower the block down and retry for both legs, or you can keep one leg extended, one leg bent for another few breaths. And then if you're on only one side, swap now to the second side and lengthen out your other leg. If you've got both legs extended, stay right where you are. And then all variations slide back on up to the soles of both of your feet. With the block still sturdy, I'm going to go ahead and take mine down to the lower setting just because I am on a carpet. So it's not quite as solid, as sturdy. You want to feel really, really stable for this one. Cover both of your feet and extend your legs long for a Viparita Karani, legs up the wall variation. Allow your shoulders to be soft, elbows, wrists to be soft, arms and upper body heavy. Your toes can draw back towards your shins. And let your breaths be long and unforced. And in the next breath or two, go ahead and bend into your knees. Invite the soles of your feet back on down to the earth. Slide your hips up just high enough to remove the block out from underneath you. And then let your knees rock towards your right. Spinal twist of your choice. So knees can be staggered or stacked. Arms can be wide like a T or cactus arms with your gaze neutral or out over your left fingertips. In the next breath or two, gently offer your knees up through center and on down to the second side. So same option. You can stagger your knees or stack them. It's a spinal twist of your choice. Gaze might want to shift over the right fingertips this time. And then go ahead and slide all the way back towards center. Find any last movement, shape, gesture that might feel good for you before we settle towards Shavasana. We'll actually take a pranayam from Shavasana today. It's one that's compatible with that pose. So anything you might need to settle in and get cozy, you can lengthen your legs out, perhaps find support for under your knees. Allow your arms to rest alongside your ribs, heavy, maybe a rock of your head from side to side before you settle into stillness. And then come on down for Shavasana. If you prefer a seated meditation as your spot to land, that is, of course, an option too. I'll be guiding a simple pranayama practice from here. As you first land into your quiet stillness, you can observe the natural movement of your breath. And then I'll invite you to lift it to particular landmarks. The next time you inhale, you can visualize your breath lifting from your belly and without pausing, right up into your ribs, and then right up into your collarbones on the inhale. And then exhale to release that. So continue building in that one side. With each inhale, you're lifting the breath from your belly toward your ribs and then way up into your collarbones. And then we'll start to build in the second side. As you inhale, it lifts from your belly towards your ribs, way up to your collarbones. And now, as you exhale, you'll reverse that pattern. So it's visualizing the same three landmarks. You breathe down from your collarbones, down into your ribs, and down even more into your belly without a retention, a pause, or a stop. It's just a visualization, Dirga Pranayama, or three-part breath. Your inhale rises from your belly to your ribs, to your collarbones. And your exhale glides down from your collarbones to your ribs, deep to your belly. Take another round. You can move through those landmarks at your own pace. And then release to natural breath for these final few moments to integrate in the practice. And as you're resting here, I want to read to you the true passage from the Bhagavad Gita that this interpretation came from, which is, one cannot keep himself on the spiritual path if he abandons the duties born of his true nature. One's own duty performed imperfectly is better than doing another's duty perfectly. Of course, lesson on the concept of dharma, otherwise interpreted as yoga is the practice of tolerating the consequences of being yourself. So we can strive to do our own practice, our own duty, our own purpose, however imperfectly, which will allow us to live according to the Bhagavad Gita in a more authentic way, staying true to the path, versus efforts to perform someone else's duty or practice perfectly. This level of tolerance that we have with ourselves is in direct relationship to the depth of our own yoga practice. Sometimes just being ourself is truly the hardest yoga pose of them all. Enjoy the last few breaths here. So if you have not already, return to your natural breath now and releasing any pranayama or conscious breath. Allow yourself to be quiet in your organic state. In this place of integration and exploration of yoga as the practice of recognizing and understanding and accepting responsibility for the consequences of being fully yourself. You can start to bring in really gentle, unforced movements, perhaps tracing your fingertips or rocking your head from side to side. You might want to reach your arms up and back overhead and take a stretch into the whole length of your form. And then hug your knees into your heart. You can roll down to your favorite side before you press up to close the practice in any seat that's comfortable for you. And as you come to land in a seat, I invite you to bring your thumbs in toward the base of your ring finger. We'll close with a mudra today, tattva or tatwa seal or gesture. This is the mudra of truth and authenticity, known as the truth seal. And take a final few breaths here together, allowing this gesture to support you in tapping into your own greatest truth. Remember, better to perform one's own duties imperfectly, because even that imperfection is part of our truth, our authenticity, it's part of our humanness. And then go ahead and find a gesture that feels like a good place to land in your practice. That might be right where you're at. Perhaps it's bowing forward to touch the earth, or Anjali with hands at prayer at your heart. And I thank you for joining in this practice of lessons from the Bhagavad Gita on being yourself. Thank you so much for joining. See you all next time.